Hi, thank you so much for wanting to be a part of Created's outreaches that we're doing for the Super Bowl. I'm assuming if you're getting this video, then you are hoping to sign up to help us with our outreach efforts, or that you're just interested in learning about them in some way. So this video is really serving the purpose of doing a quick volunteer training with you. But instead of trying to share the slides and videos that we normally put in our volunteer training, we've also attached them in the email that you've received. So you should get the slides that kind of go over who Created is, what our mission is, our history, then some things that volunteers need to know. And then there's also a section in there specifically about the outreaches and what we do when we're on outreach. We also attached a PDF that kind of goes over that again, just what the street outreach training is. And there's two videos, including this one, that are attached to that email as well. One video is just a quick description of who Created is and what we do. And another one's actually a video that was done a few years ago with a local news station. And they followed one of our street outreach teams on a night of outreach. So we thought that'd be a good way to show what street outreach actually looks like for those of you who haven't experienced it before. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of who Created is and also just things that you need to know for this training. So as you have already heard, we're gearing up for 4 days of outreach in conjunction with the Super Bowl. So we'll have teams going out Thursday, Friday, and Sunday nights from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., so midnight. And then we're also going to have a day team on Saturday from 12 to 2, also doing a day outreach. So basically, the major focus we're doing through outreach is what our normal street outreaches do all year. So we will be getting in groups into vehicles. We are asking everyone to be COVID conscious, so we will be wearing masks and we'll take temperatures and we'll have hand sanitizer available to the teams. But we are going to be getting in those vehicles and just driving up and down the areas of Tampa that we know women are working in street prostitution and being exploited and possibly trafficked. And so we will have teams just driving in those areas. If we see a woman who's in need, we'll stop and we will get out of the vehicle, offer her the gifts that we have, which are bags that have toiletries, and we're also going to have bags that have snack items in them, and just asking her if she's okay and if she needs any resources, if she needs any help. And then, of course, just offering, ways that she can stay in touch with us. We have numbers that we put in all of our bags that have a hotline for Created on them. So that will go on each bag as well. But just before we get more into what that outreach is going to look like, I wanted to just go over who Created is and what our mission is. So Created actually started in Tampa 13 years ago. So we've been working since 2007. We also, when we started, we're really an outreach organization. That's how we started. The founding team just really felt God calling them to the women that are out there on the street, knowing that women were being abused and exploited, and really just trying to figure out what can we do to help? What does that look like? And so they felt God saying, well, just go to them. And so that's what the team did. They went to the women, they started asking questions and trying to figure out what it would take for someone to get out of that situation, what was needed. Of course, as we met women, we realized that there was a lot more to their stories than we even knew. And that's when we actually, as a team, started learning about, which I wasn't on the founding team, but the team of Created started learning about, what human trafficking actually looks like. And the fact that many of the women that we would think were just choosing to be on the street were actually being trafficked and had somebody that they owed money to, or that they had been abused and then tricked into being where they are. So there's a lot of different stories of the women that we encounter. And I would say no two stories of someone who's been in that type of situation are the same. So you can kind of go into this with no expectations, which is what we still try to do in our work every day. So after meeting women where they are out on the streets, we realized that the women that we were serving, one of the main barriers that they were facing is that they didn't have a home where they felt safe or a place that they felt that they could go and live. So in 2008, we opened our sanctuary home, which that is a long-term program that women can live in for up to 2 years. They don't pay rent the entire time that they are there. And the whole purpose of that time is that they are working through the healing and recovery process. So there's phases to that program. Um, Normally, when they first come in, it's really focused on drug treatment and anything that they need to kind of, um, you know, get stable. So that includes mental health evaluations, treatment evaluations, as I said, seeing a doctor, getting a medical checkup, and that kind of builds out their case plan. Then we focus in on the trauma therapy after they've been stable for a little bit. They start trauma therapy with a licensed counselor that we partner with. Or we actually have a few different counselors that we partner with. And then as they kind of about 6 months into that program, they start job training and start working on job skills, which we also provide through our social enterprises. So that's just a little bit about who Created is. In the 13 years that we've been here, we don't just have our outreach programs and the sanctuary program anymore. We also operate an emergency housing program where women can come and live for 30 to 90 days. Really, the purpose of that is when we had in the back when it was just outreach and the long-term program, there was such a gap for women who were ready to get out, but they didn't have anywhere that they could go. And so we started our safe housing, emergency housing program, really to provide that gap and to have a place where we could offer a bed that night. We can only offer beds to somebody who is clean from alcohol and drugs, and also, ensuring that the women aren't presenting any major mental health issues. But luckily, we have community partners that help with that. So if we encounter a woman on outreach and she says she's ready that night and she needs somewhere to go, we can get her into either safe housing or a detox bed, or get her over to behavioral health if that's what the need is. So that's kind of the process that we do as we're meeting women and trying to resource what their needs are. We also have other outreach teams as well. So we have our street outreach team. We also have club outreach, where we go to 4 strip clubs in our city and also 3 brothels that present as what are called lingerie shops. We also have a massage parlor outreach team that goes to brothels as well. And in all of those outreaches, our gift is a way in. So we bring gifts to the women. We try to start a conversation with them. And at the end of the day, our main purpose is to just let women know, hey, we see you, you're loved. Is there anything we can do for you? And to let them know when you're ready or when you need help, here's the number that you can call and you can reach out to us. So that's really the purpose of our outreaches. We also have a jail outreach that we do when COVID isn't happening. So we have classes that we take into the jails. And then we also operate, starting this past year, a drop-in center, which is on Nebraska Avenue. And women can come in there and receive clothing, toiletries, and meet with our staff or volunteers that are there. That's a huge volunteer need. So if you're interested in the drop-in center, let me know. But that's kind of what our program looks like as a whole. And you can hear more about how everything kind of works together in that video that I talked about that's going to be on here as well. That kind of gives some of the stories and more behind how Created operates. But just to go over quickly what to expect on our outreach during the Super Bowl. Normally we have teams on Friday night that go on Nebraska Avenue and reach out to women that are being exploited on the street. Our goal for the street outreach during the Super Bowl is to have multiple teams. So we're hoping at least 3-4 teams each night. So we can send teams all over Tampa. So even though we normally go to Nebraska Avenue, we know that there's a certain area in St. Pete, there's a certain area in Plant City, there's a certain area over closer to where the strip clubs are. There's a certain area, all these areas where we know women might be out on the street, prostituting, being exploited. And so we're planning to send teams all around Tampa that night. And again, our goal is to just offer resources, offer care. During the Super Bowl, we do have a partnership, or during that week period, we do have a partnership happening with a local task force that includes police departments, other organizations. And so if we see something that, if a woman is like saying, I need help, I need to get out tonight, or if we see something that we just think is really concerning, there's a tip line that we can utilize to send a tip over to TPD. And they'll kind of process that through the correct channels. And if a woman is saying that she needs to get out, we have a crisis line that we would call, and then we would also involve that tip line with TPD in that as well. So that's kind of what to expect on street outreach. we're going to all meet together at our main location at the start of every outreach. And some of the main do's and don'ts that you would need to know for outreach are, like I said, we're really we try to have 4 people in each car, 3 to 4 people. 1 or 2 people are in the front driving, and then 2 women will get out and talk to that woman that we meet. So those who are in the car, when you get out and you're talking, you always want to have a conversation starter ready. So you want to be able to have something like, "Hey, we have a gift for you," or when they ask like, "What is this for?" You can say, "Hey, we're with Created. We're just out here making sure women are safe. Are you okay? Do you need help? Do you need anything?" So those kind of conversation starters. But really, I mean, the conversations usually last about 5 to 7 minutes, maybe less, unless somebody's really talkative, and then she might be responsive and wanting to talk. But I wouldn't put a lot of expectation to how long that conversation is going to be. Our main goal is to just let her know, "Hey, how are you? Are you okay? Hey, we're just making sure that you're safe. Here's things, here's snacks, here's items. What else do you need?" If we're in an area that's close to Created, you can say, "Hey, do you know where the drop-in center is for Created?" Or point out the card to her that's in the backpack and say, "Hey, this is a resource number that you can call if you ever need help." So there'll be more details for them on those cards. Um, but that's kind of what it looks like. And some of the do's and don'ts. Well, one of the things that we always get asked is, how do you know if somebody's working when we're driving around and looking? So we're looking for women that are alone. We don't stop for women that's with a man or with somebody else. Um, that's pretty obvious. It's just for a safety issue. We don't want to stop and try to encounter a group of people. We're just looking for one woman. So if somebody's alone, we'll stop and talk to her. And um, so if you're watching the street and you see somebody who's like got like their purse in their bag, and they're walking really fast, and they're not maybe really fast, but they're walking like they have a purpose, and they're looking straight ahead, like towards a bus stop or towards home or towards the next street, that might be somebody that's not working. But if you see someone who's like kind of like nonchalant, just kind of chilling, walking around, that would be something we probably stop for. And we always say, if you stop for someone and they're not working, then that's okay. We would rather just stop and check on somebody. Like I said, we do outreach from 10 p.m. to midnight. So if there's somebody that's out there alone on Nebraska Avenue, or maybe one of the areas that we're going to go to, it might be nice to still just check on them and make sure that they're okay. So we do that. And if we see someone, and another clue would be, if a woman, like, as you slow down, if she makes eye contact with the car, or in some areas, the women will flip the light up on their phone, like they'll pretend they're talking on it and then flip the light up to let a John know that she's available. So that might be something that you look for. Um, and then also, like, if we drive a certain area and the woman is like kind of walking back and forth in an area, and then you drive around again and she hasn't left that area, that's a sign that she's probably just working in that area. So those are all things that we're looking for. I would say go in with no expectations. It's not going to be like what you see in Pretty Woman. The women are dressed plain clothes. Usually women are in t-shirts and jeans. That's kind of what it's like in the culture here in Tampa. There's really nothing that gives that really gives that away, other than the area that they're in, honestly, and that they're out there so late. Even when we do day outreaches as Created, there's just certain clues if a woman's like kind of pacing and like kind of staying on one section of the street. That's kind of a clue that she's kind of working in that area. So those are some things that we look for. And honestly, a lot of it is just discernment and kind of just guessing and saying like, you know what, we're just going to stop for her. We're going to check and see if she's okay. And honestly, when we stop, we don't straight out ask them like, "Hey, are you out here working?" We'll just say, "Hey, we're out here making sure women are safe." They know what we're asking. Usually they're not gonna, be confused, or if they are, you can explain Created a little more, if they're asking more questions, and say, "Yeah, we work with women that are in the sex industry and trying to get out. Are you interested in getting out?" Those are all totally fine ways to start the conversation. But some don'ts, I would say, don't be forceful in your conversation. If we stop for someone, there are times when we stop and we're trying to talk to someone and she just makes a beeline and walks right by us. That's an indicator that she might have somebody that's watching her. And so we don't ever try to force conversation or make somebody talk to us. We're just kind of gonna let her pass and just go back to the car awkwardly. But that's kind of what we do. And then again, if we stop for someone and she's just kind of like she takes the gift, but she's not really interested, that's okay. Just let her lead that conversation and let her kind of take her space. The resources and everything are in the bag for her. So that's really, kind of the main things for do's and don'ts for street outreach. There is also, like I mentioned, a PDF attached to the email that goes over some different parameters that you would want to pay attention to. So those are all there, but it's really pretty simple. And I always say, like, a good rule of thumb for any volunteer is approach that woman like you would want to be approached. So if you're like in the mall or somewhere and somebody comes up to you to start a conversation, like, how would you want them to do that? You wouldn't want it to be like forceful or feel like they're trying to get something from you. You would just want it to be natural and nice. So I always say, kind of go with that rule from, like, it's kind of the old, how would you want to be treated thing. So that's really the same thing that we do on street outreach. And I think we always remember, we're really interrupting their space in that moment. And yes, it's with um, good intent to help them, but they may not be ready for that help at that time. And of course, like I said, we have materials in the bag of numbers that they can reach out to, resources that they can follow up on. And we always invite them, especially if they're in our area, to the drop in center, because that's a really good intentional space that they can actually engage with our staff and volunteers, because we don't allow men in and it's kind of a protected space. Um, so that's kind of what to expect on street outreach during the Super Bowl. We are going to different areas. We're going to kind of play it by ear every night, trying to figure out, on Thursday night, did we meet women in these different areas? If yes, let's go back there, or where do we want to try? That type of thing. So you can expect the team leaders each night to kind of give you a map of this is where we're going. Certain volunteers will help drive. So if you're willing to help drive, let us know. But yeah, that will really be what it looks like. And then another volunteer opportunity that we wanted to let you know about is we also will have crisis teams on standby for when our street outreach teams are out. But also, like I mentioned in the beginning, we do have a task force in our area that's working, and we're all working together with local police and other organizations to help. If any woman is rescued during the Super Bowl in Tampa, that will help get a bed for her that night. And so Created is one of the organizations that's helping provide shelter. And so we need volunteers to help us in that if there's a woman who does choose to go into safe housing, we're going to need help transporting her from one safe location to another safe location. So that first safe location might be like a local police station or a place that we will give you and send you. And then the new location would be like to a hotel or to our emergency housing. So it's really just helping transport somebody from one space to the other. We'll have packages that you can give her and instructions for when that happens. And what would happen is that if you opt into that, we will have a group chat. And once, if we have a rescue, then we will put in that group chat, hey, we're going to need transportation help. And whoever signs up for that first will be the one who's able to go. And so we'll kind of, have more directions for that if you opt into it. So if you're interested in that, you can email us at info@createdwomen.com. So it's info at createdwomen.com. And just let us know, hey, I'm interested in helping with the transport option. And we'll email you the instructions for that. And then, we of course are also collecting supplies for these outreaches. We need snack items like chips, candy bars, granola bars, um, water bottles, anything that we can use to put into the snack bags for the women. And then we also are collecting for those that we're putting into emergency housing, some non-perishable food items, like things that they could put into a microwave because they might be staying at an extended stay hotel. So that would be like Easy Mac, cup of noodles, granola bars for breakfast, coffee creamer, just things that that they would be able to use for like 1 to 2 days until we can get them like full groceries. So that's kind of what we're looking for and the things that are going to be happening for the Super Bowl. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can use that email I mentioned before, info@createdwomen. So info@createdwomen.com. And we attached this email also some questions that we're going to ask you to respond to. So that we know that you watched the training video and went through some of the training materials. So thank you so much, and we're looking forward to having you out on our team with us.